Hello, this is Colin and Lomo. And today I wanted to talk about the country which is most closely identified with tea after China. Well, could be England, but in this case I'm talking about Japan, the second country to establish a tea culture. Now, somewhere between 500 and 800 AD, nobody's quite sure. The story goes that Buddhist monks actually smuggled tea from China into Japan, hidden under their robes. Um, of course, in China, the tea had been used for a long time as a medicine, as also a stimulant to keep one alert during long periods of meditation, and of course, the same was being done in Japan. Outside of monasteries, hardly anybody drank tea. It was basically reserved for the royal family, and that was about it. Monasteries, the royal family. It wasn't until the 12th century that tea became more readily available and more popular outside of these very elite circles. Tea was adopted by the samurai. Now, as we all know, the samurai was the military class of Japan who at first served the nobility, but eventually took over the state for themselves. And of course, they, in order to establish themselves, their legitimacy, they also searched for ways to express themselves artistically. They weren't just thugs with swords and bows and things. They were also deeply spiritual and artistic. So one of the practices that was adopted by the samurai was tea. Now, of course, the Japanese have a tendency to take everything far too seriously. And of course, with tea, they did so. They established something called Chado, the way of tea. Now, the way of tea was not just an artistic expression. I mean, the ultimate expression of the way of tea, of course, is the Chadoyu, which is the Japanese tea ceremony, which is an artistic expression of the way of tea. But it's not just artistic, it is also deeply spiritual. That is why some tea masters became almost military assets, because when they would serve the tea to the samurai, it was to give them strength before battle and spiritual cleansing before battle. So the position of tea master could actually become somewhat strategic. There's a film, Death of a Tea Master, which illustrates this attitude towards tea. And of course, if anyone's ever seen the Japanese tea ceremony, it's very involved. It uses powdered tea, which is kind of old-fashioned today, of course, but that's the kind of tea that they were getting from China when it started. And it has very much to do with Zen and Taoism, and what we think of as the very sparse, very minimalistic, simple, beautiful tea ceremony, and its design and its environment was mostly created by Murata Shuko in the 15th century, whose influence on the tea ceremony, the hanging of the Zen classics on the wall, the choice of materials and ingredients, has basically been set ever since. So, this is not a Japanese tea. It's actually ice wine, but you get the point. Anyway, that's enough for today. So, cheers.